I'm not يعني involved in this workshop, but there is a moderator. He will inshallah lead this workshop, and I'm sure يعني all the attendees they will earn يعني good information about the post-mortem imaging, and I hope inshallah to build يعني baseline for the knowledge for all radiologists and forensic physicians for the next inshallah step for the physical attendance and for the workshop inshallah next few days inshallah. I'm leaving for Dr. Abdulaziz Shulhu to start the
Okay, thank you so much,
workshop.
Dr. Ahmed, and welcome, Dr. Michael. It's very nice to see you again, and the winners takes it all, as you said, always.
You remember that, yes? Okay.
Before I would start, this Dr. Arwa Badib wants to say something. تفضل دكتور Arwa.
Hey, assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Hi, good afternoon or good morning, everyone. My name is Arwa Badib. I'm the current president of the RSSA. Since the audience is radiologists, so I thought maybe I should jump in the first and then leave the floor for the forensic medicine folks. It is very nice to see you again, Dr. Thali, and I have no idea how my name came up as Dr. Michael Thali when I first came in. So I changed
Yeah.
it back to Wabadib. I don't want to impersonate a forensic person. And welcome, Dr. Abdulaziz and Dr. Ahmed from Forensic Medicine. It is a pleasure to have you all. To us as radiologists, we are eager to learn anything that is new and is emerging in the field. And to us, we were living in the land of the living. And then we got to experience new developments with virtual autopsy, and it was news to us. I felt that I was from coming in a police or a criminal investigation series, but then they said, no, 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 this is you guys, your reality as radiologists. You will be chipping in and helping us out. So we are very appreciative of the experience that Dr. Tali is going to provide for us. And then I'll leave the floor for Dr. Al Yahya and Dr. Abdulaziz to proceed with introducing Dr. Thali, and let's get started. Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Arwa. First of all, good evening, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar. I'm truly honored to be hosting this session alongside our distinguished guest, Professor Michael Talley, whose expertise and contribution to the field are widely respected and deeply valued. Prof. Michael Talley is a full professor and chair of forensic medicine at the University of Zurich since 2011. He is a board-certified forensic, internationally recognized for his pioneering work in post-mortem imaging. As a co-founder of the Virtual project, he played a key role in integrating radiological methods such as 3D scanning, CT, and MRI in forensic investigations. He has published over 300 peer reviews, articles, and several textbooks. Prof. Tali is a well-known speaker at an international conference and serves on various editorial and advisory boards. His work is driven by a strong commitment to innovation, interdisciplinary collaboration, and education in forensic science. I would like also to extend my sincere gratitude to the Saudi Society of Forensic Medicine and the Radiological Society of Saudi Arabia for their support and collaboration in making this webinar possible. Their commitment to advancing medical knowledge and fostering a professional dialogue continues to create meaningful opportunities like this for all of us. We are also delighted to have such a diverse and engaged online audience joining us today from different locations and different specialties. Your presence reflects the importance of this topic and excellence in practice. Before we begin, we encourage you to please drop your questions in the webinar chat throughout the session, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Michael to begin today's session. Thank you, Professor Michael.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you to everybody. I see we are over 200 people. I personally impressed that so many are listening to this webinar. Um, you already get, I tried to move that. Oh, it's not moving. Oh, blah. Still the first problem. Maybe I have to close that. Yeah. Oh. Before it was working, so maybe are you in or that I cannot move it? Okay, I will try it again, sorry. That's the wrong one. Okay, can you see it or?
Yes, it's clear,
Yes,
Doctor.
Prof.
It's
Perfect.
clear. Oh, sorry. Now it's working. Yeah. So you already gave an introduction concerning my person. So as you heard, I'm a forensic pathologist. What was my first link to radiology many years ago? Was my wife is a radiologist. So that's really a private connection from classical forensic pathology to my wife to the radiologist. But my wife is not in forensic. So as you already heard before, I was involved in that topic many years ago, nearly 30 years ago, by my boss at the University of Bern, where we started off scanning dead bodies, 3D scanning, so the surface scanning of dead bodies, and then later using all this cross-section technology like computer tomography, magnetic resonance, and postmortem angiography, postmortem biopsy, and all that. We will come to that later. And so you heard that before. I'm not a classical um, pathologist as you see maybe on American and other movies like CSI and all that. So I was always very open to new approaches. So innovation in forensic, that's really my professional topic during my whole life. And so we had always a famous group, the Autopsy group at the University of Bern and later in Zurich, who worked with me together as a team, and that's very important, as a team of forensic pathologists, of radiologists, and all technicians, radiographers, autopsy technicians, and engineers to build the future of forensic medicine. And as you heard before, we had a lot of collaboration. We are traveling the world and giving presentation, scientific presentations, and education courses and all that. So you see, I'm more or less a little bit coming from the technical side, and what becomes a new hot topic for me is forensic nursing, supporting all the processes in forensic medicine, meaning living cases and dead cases. So forensic nursing coming from the US and Canada and UK is really a hot topic beside all this technical stuff I was doing with my team for the last 20 or 30 years. So my connect to Riyadh or Saudi Arabia. It's really a long going story. You see here a promotion poster. It's over 10 years ago, 10, 12 or something like that. That was the first forensic medical science um, conference many years ago in Riyadh, and since then we are really have contact, especially to the forensic medicine part. And nowadays, I think that's the first invitation or presentation I will give to a exclusively more or less radiological society or audience. And so I was attending last year. So Dr. Ahmed and I, we have really a strong collaboration, and we become friends over 10 years now. I'm often with other people here, maybe attending this session too, strong collaboration and friendships. And so we are really connected, and it's a great honor to speak to you today for the upcoming maybe 90 minutes, and then we can discuss, or if you have questions, I try to answer them. And I see we are already over 300 people, so that's really great. And you see at the bottom left, okay, take a photo and smile. So I like really the Arabic humor. It's always fun to be in your country. And as you heard, we are planning maybe a mini autopsy course in the near time upcoming, so that you can physically attend. So that's the plans are ongoing, and we will see what happens. So as you already, I think you are familiar with the framework we are in, or you are in, and what are the plans for your strategy 2030, as you call it. And so you see it's the main topic is the death certificate in Saudi Arabia. That's maybe if you heard the topic, that sounds boring, but it's even in Switzerland in a daily work, it's often a problem. And so you see here the overview, and what is you see here on the left side in red, postmortem CT imaging training. That's from the idea. That's a really old idea. We discussed that, Ahmed and I, since several years, but now the plan is moving forward, and we discussed that in the field of medicine, forensic medicine. And now I think the topic or the plan is to integrate you as a radiologist or radiographers coming from the other side in the very near future. And I think this is an important step, that we go through the basics, so that you have some ideas what is going on in this field of forensic medicine. Because I know really from my wife, and I was working in the radiological department for 2 years to learn what is a CT, what is ultrasonography, what is magnetic resonance, what is magnetic resonance spectroscopy. So these are really two different worlds, and normally there's not a real connecting point. And we tried and managed that to connect these fields together with the so-called Virtual Autopsy project, or the label we gave to the project, the Autopsy project, many years ago, and that becomes really a success story. At the beginning, so the people were not really open-minded, even here in Switzerland or in Europe. And we have a great support from Australia, Japan, and in US they started now. But the idea was always very welcome in the Arabic area, and so that's the reason I have really strong connection to your world in the Arabic area. And so you see here the timeline and the phases, and I think we are in this workflow. I think we are on a good way to manage what are the plans. So this is maybe, I saw that maybe the first time, or I heard the idea 2 or 3 years ago, and that was presented last year. It's really, as we heard before, it's about, I try to put here the red point here. It's really, you see here, the cause of death. I think that's really the big question. based on diagnosis, declaration, past history, medical record, and the circumstances. And then, if you are going here, the regular death certification, then everything is okay. And then you see here from the workflow, if you can fulfill that, the cause of death and all that, then it's okay. You are on the green way here. But if you cannot solve or answer or fulfill the death certification in Saudi Arabia, and that's exactly the same process here in Europe or globally, and so you are planning to integrate postmortem CT controlled or read by the radiologist, and the goal is again to make a clear death certification. And if you cannot do that, I think it goes to the forensic specialists, and then you do further examination. I think this is really from the visual standpoint or for the understanding, I think that's an absolutely clear sketch produced by the team, as I know by Dr. Ahmed and his team. I think this is the topic for you as a radiologist. Maybe you heard that before. Maybe there are some people in the audience which did not or did not have seen this before, but I think this is the main topic what is going around. And so the reason I'm speaking to you today is to show you how we are managing the process in Switzerland, and what is similar, and how can you integrate our knowledge, what we did, our experience based on 25 years ago, in the very, very near future, in the workflow of the death certification, including in some cases postmortem CT and all that. And as you see here, this is driven by the radiologist. Okay, so I have to put that away. Oh, that's always a problem if I put that here. Oh, then it's not working anymore. That's not. Oh, now it's working. Yeah, okay. So the question is really, why Virtopsy? You see that the Virtopsy is a combination of two words. So virtual, it's coming from Old Greek, that means very strong or very serious, and opsy means seeing. So it means good seeing in a virtual way. And so we say, okay, Virtopsy is not like the autopsy. Autopsy means self-seeing, and self-seeing, then you have some subjectivity. And we deleted the autopsy term from the virtual autopsy. So we deleted the autos, that means the self-seeing, because we wanted to have objectivity. So that's the reason we created this term Virtopsy 30 years ago or 25 years ago by Professor Richard Dienhofer and me, and that becomes a label for our research group. But people integrated that and say, okay, we will do a Virtopsy, and you will see later what we as a research team in Switzerland understand under the term of the Virtopsy. And what is important for you as a radiologist or radiographers, or coming from the imaging side, not really involved in the forensic field. So what are we doing? It's like you go to a theater or a movie, but you are, as a forensic pathologist, you are always coming too late. That means, so the movie or the theater playing on the front of you is already over. So you cannot see the movie anymore because the movie is over. The theater, the playing Shakespeare or something like that, everything is over, and you see only some objects maybe on the floor in front of you, and based on this object you see there, okay, there was a theater maybe playing Shakespeare, or there was a movie or cinema playing this and that. And so you maybe know the joke in Saudi Arabia too. The forensic pathologist as a doctor is always coming too late, because the patient or the the people are already dead. And so that's like a little bit of symbolism. So forensic doctors are always coming too late because the patient is dead or the cinema or theater is already over. And then based on the dead person or the already finished theater play or a movie, we have to decide or reconstruct what happens in the theater, in the movie, or then in the real life, what kind of happening was going on, or what was the crime. And so when the play, the movie or theater is over, the search for the forensic people, scientists or medical doctor starts. So this is a little bit the understanding what we are doing. So always coming too late, and then the most important part we are doing is really the reconstruction of the happening. But we only see some objects in the area. Normally, people are dead. There is maybe a victim or a murder case or something like that. And dead people, as you know, they are not speaking anymore. And so the reconstruction based on the things we are finding on the floor after the theater or the movie virtually, we have to do the reconstruction of the happening or the history before. And so it's really, so that's maybe a sentence. So it's the reconstruction under uncertainty. And so we really look based on the findings we have to reconstruct the happening. And see, personally, I think this is the key issue, and this is not always easy. And that's the environment we are dealing in. And so the plan is really, because we changed the approach from the classical autopsy, we come to that later, in the virtual autopsy world, integrating now imaging technologies and radiology in the field. And so what is virtopsy? If you never heard something from virtopsy, so the virtual autopsy is using so the basic level of all these virtopsy technological tools. The very basic thing is the integration of the CT, scanning dead bodies in a non-invasive approach and see the inside or the findings inside the body. When we started the project 25 years ago or even more, so that was so shocking for the classical forensic doctors, because they said, okay, we are used to do autopsy, and if you are taking away the cases from us using this virtual autopsy approach, this will destroy our profession. And I had a famous guy in the US who told me at the American Academy Forensic Science meeting many, many years ago, Michael Talley, you want to kick us as forensic pathologists out of business using all this imaging technology. And what was the big advantage? This non-invasive approach. So that was during the time multi-slice computer tomography was coming in the radiological daily practice, and I was working at the University Hospital, Insel Hospital in Bern. And during that time, there was Peter Fock. Peter Fock, maybe the older ones of you remember him. He was together with Willy Calender. So Peter Fock and Willy Calender, they invited together at the University of Bern the spiral CT. Before spiral CT or multi-slice CT later, it was really a cross-section, and the spiral CT opened the world to a 3D documentation of the body. So during that time, it was mid-90s, that was exciting, new, and just around this time, I was working in the radiological department at the University Hospital in Bern. And then we had one of the first spiral CT, because they worked together with the Siemens company And we started then a collaboration with Siemens based on this innovation of the spiral CT, more or less born together with Peter Fock and Willy Kalender from the Siemens company and University of from Germany together. And so we started the project, and I worked there during the day, and in the nighttime I opened the door after the patient left the hospital or there was nobody in the emergency department. I opened the door really for the dead people of the Forensic Institute. And what's great, it's a non-invasive documentation, and finally you had 3 digital models. During that time, having 3D digital models, that was exciting. Nowadays, you heard the term digital twin. I think that's a new topic. We just have published a publication where we are doing surface scanning using 3D avatars, digital twins, and all that. And what was another very, very important step is that you have an objective permanent documentation for second opinion and all that. So you scan a body, you have all the 3D data, and you can always go back to the data and do rereading, re-evaluation, and you can do measurements in the data set. So these are the most important steps at the beginning. So we started the project in the late 90s. We started with 3D surface scanning. That was a high profile case we had in Switzerland. It was a murder case, and in that case, a woman was killed by the husband. The woman was put in the fridge for some days, and the woman had in the face 2 so-called pattern injury, and the question was, what was the injury causing instrument? So based on this very, very high profile case in Switzerland many years ago, we started the project of forensic imaging, starting first on the skin surface. So the question was, having a so-called pattern injury with a shape and form, asking what was the injury causing instrument. So that was the start in the project, and later we decided, or we had the idea, maybe we can add to the surface scanning, we can add maybe cross-section imaging technology like computer tomography and magnetic resonance. And then, based on that, we created so-called virtual body models, having the surface information of the skin with injuries and all that, and we merged that many years ago with the radiological data. And as a very innovative forensic institute, we had during that time, we had not our own scanners at the institute, and so we started the collaboration with the radiological department. And the reason, or the best collaboration part that was that my boss during that time, Richard Dierenhofer, decided, okay, let's send Michael Tali like a little Michael spy in the radiology department, let him work during the day for the radiology, and in the night time he could work for the researcher for the forensic institution. And that was really the connect from forensic to the radiology. And so it was an excellent collaboration. I think that was during that time the best move forward we did, and I think that's still nowadays a good idea that at least at the beginning, a strong collaboration of forensic medicine with radiology is started, and I think that's one of the reasons of the talk today. And the main topic is really the bridging between these 2 fields of forensic and radiology, and make some bridges that you learn from each other. I think that's really what I will present to you. We'll see, or we can discuss about machine technology and all that, but at at the end, it's always the human relationship between people. So that maybe sounds a little bit very sophisticated or like from an old guy or something like that. But at the end, it's always the human partnership, the human relationship, whether it's in a private or in a professional setting. I think the human is always the center, and if the right human met together in professional environment or private environment, then I think an idea could work. And so, as I mentioned before, we started at the University of Bern many, many years ago. And the support during that time, it was not excellent. To be honest, yes, we didn't get money. We had a lot of people who were against the project, even at the university or at the Institute of Bern, but under the umbrella or protection of Richard Dierenhofer, we as a team could push forward the project. So we started there in Bern, and we were not the first who started with CT or magnetic resonance scanning of dead people, but what makes us during that time, we studied or we used all the imaging technologies. As I mentioned before, we were using surface scanning, we were using CT scanning, we did some experience magnetic resonance scanning, always in collaboration with our radiological friends. We had a great support, and that's really important, a great support from the radiographers at the University of Bern or from the Insel Hospital. And maybe you heard the name of Dominic Gachot working here in Zurich in my Virtual group at the moment. So it's really, you have to integrate all the people who are interested in this field, and so don't make a borderline or something like that between the medical doctors and the technicians, the radiological technicians. So that's important. And so we were using all the technology. We will come to that later. And then we integrated that in the forensic pathology and medicine workflow. Later, before September 11, I went with my wife to the United States, Armed Forces Institute of Pathology. Maybe some of you know that. I was there integrated in the forensic unit. My wife worked at the radiological department. During that time, they had their annually AFIP courses, so my wife worked there. And then at the beginning, the US was not really open-minded to the idea, but then after September 11, it was integrated at Dover Air Force Base. That was the first post-mortem CT scanner installed in the US. And then after that, I think UK started, Australia, Japan started, and the Scandinavian countries started. So it was not an easy start, but nowadays it's covering the world, the ideas. So really open-minded people or countries are really integrated the idea of virtual autopsy in the workflow of death examination. And as I showed you, Saudi Arabia is really going this way in a perfect way. So the hot topic during at the beginning was really what is this new virtual autopsy? There was a huge discussion. Is it virtuopsy? Will it replace the traditional autopsy? Will it be like an add-on or something like that? That was a huge discussion. I will show you what we are doing later. And so it's for sure it's a powerful complement in all the cases. if you are doing that. We started in Zurich, every dead body or person coming to the institution of our forensic institute here in Zurich gets a CT scan. So there is no discussion whether we should do a CT scan. We have at our institution, we have a CT scanner, a dual energy that will be replaced in the upcoming months, and we have a 3 Tesla magnetic resonance scanner in the institute. We had that before at the University of Bern, and we were the first institution having both technology in the institution. At the moment, there are other institutions having the same. One is, for example, we have that in Bern, in Lausanne, here in Switzerland, and Basel, because all the people in Switzerland are coming, or the bosses or full professors are coming out of the Autopsy team from Professor Richard Dierenhofer. Then we have a CT magnetic resonance scanning unit in, for example, Albuquerque, and then good friends in Melbourne, they installed some months ago beside the CT scanning magnetic resonance. So for sure, it's an excellent add-on, and the big advantage is really you have a high accuracy, you have everything documented, and then you can go back to a re-examination, looking at the files again, reading the files and all that. And what is very, very important, it enhances safety. So having, for example, we have even here in Switzerland, we have more and more tuberculosis cases. I was invited some weeks ago to India. They have a lot of tuberculosis cases there. And so scanning body before the autopsy, then you have some pre-information what is expecting you as a forensic doctor, a forensic pathologist, what is inside the body, what pathology or maybe what kind of disease you are expecting, and then you can really reducing the pathogen exposure risk to the forensic staff and to the forensic people. So you can decide whether you will or you have to decide in the workflow. We were coming to that, whether you're doing this virtual autopsy approach as a standard add-on to the classical autopsy approach, or you are using that more or less as a screening tool, like we are doing that in Switzerland, or what is planned by your sketch as I presented you before from the workflow of the death certification. So you see here, forensic pathology compared to other disciplines is very, very, very traditional. And so in the forensic field, compared even to forensic toxicology, to forensic DNA, so there is a speed of technological development and all that, but in my impression, forensic pathology, there are not so open-minded people normally, and it's always a little bit a problem to integrate so innovative procedures or technologies like autopsy, because forensic pathology or medicine is working in an environment where maybe the court system and all that is very, very traditional. So maybe you like, or you heard that police is normally relatively open-minded. They are using newest technology, but the field of forensic pathology, at least this is my impression, is very, very traditional. And then coming to a group like these old men here and telling them, okay, maybe CT will replace the classical autopsy, then they are really shocked, and then you see the impression of the face looks like here. And so, but we had really, as a team, again, as a team, we said, okay, we go in a digitally, so a digital evolution or revolution. For me, it was always, or our team, it was always integrating technology we already have in other fields in a traditional field. So we had the surface scanning from automobile technology or design studios, integrate that in the forensic field, and the rest CT scanning, magnetic resonance. I think you are the expert of that. It's relatively simple if you have the idea to integrate that, but I think the biggest issue was not to integrate the technology. The biggest issue 25 years ago was really the mindset of a relatively very traditional field of forensic and court system. But nowadays in Switzerland and in a lot of countries, it's not still a problem because people or the court system, the lawyers, prosecution and all that, and even the police, we have a great collaboration with the police in the 3D scanning field. They become very open-minded and supportive of this development. And so one big question for you in the field of radiology, what are we dealing or so we have as forensic pathologists, we have the so-called W question. So that means what, who, when, why, where, and how. So we have to answer who is the dead person, what happens, and all that. And so we have to answer, and maybe this is a very important topic or a slide. We have to answer the forensic question. Globally, a lot of people say, okay, a forensic doctor has to determine the cause or at least the manner of death. That's for sure. On the death certification, you have to make the decision whether it's a natural death or it's a non-natural death. Non-natural death means, is it a crime? Is it a homicide? Is it a accident? Is it a self-accident, or is in that accident maybe third parties involved? Is it a suicide? Suicide means there is no third part involved. Is it maybe medical malpractice or something like that? So it's always natural and non-natural, and these are the manner of death. So this like a label. But at the end, in forensic, it's always the main question is what is the forensic question? So the forensic questions comes from the police or from the prosecution, and finally the answering of the forensic question has to be done before a case goes to the court by the forensic pathologist, by the police, and the whole environment. And so for me, it's always the main topic. It's not priorly the cause or manner of death. It's more conclusive. It's the forensic question. And so when you know you have to answer the forensic question, then the way to answer the forensic question, that could be the classical approach, meaning autopsy, opening the dead body, or you are using the virtual autopsy approach, the imaging approach, using modern cross-section technology, maybe surface scanning and all that. Maybe this is maybe for you the most important slide. So forensic questions that integrates, or this is like a headline, answering the forensic question, and forensic question could be cause or manner of death, but at the end, the way to answer the forensic question could be the classical autopsy or could be the autopsy approach. I think this is very important. And so, because we had not really at the beginning, so how can I say that in a very Swiss diplomatic way, I could formulate that. So the people in the forensic field did not wait for the forensic imaging approach, or they did not wait or not expected the forensic imaging approach, and there are not very open-minded, and they uh, were not really welcoming us as a young research group of forensic imaging. And so we had really a lot of problems because during that time I was young, and so to do an academic career you had to write publication, and it was not possible to submit publications during that time in the forensic field because the forensic fields or the classical forensic doctors were not open for this kind of approach of the image clamp approach. So you could, as a young scientist, not publish your papers in the forensic field. And for your field of radiologist, it was a little bit too strange, too exotic, or even a little bit scary, like a little bit like a horror show or like that. And so we were somewhere between forensic and radiology. And so then we decided, because of that problem, the best way, if nobody wants to accept your publication, the best way is you wrote the book. And so many, many years ago, we wrote the book. It becomes a famous book, a Autopsy approach, 3D optical and radiological scanning and reconstruction. You remember the reconstruction is very important. So you entering the theater or the movie, the cinema, after the story is already over. And so the forensic pathologist or doctor have to do a reconstruction in forensic medicine, and possibly, if it's possible, based on the 3D optical and radiological data. And you see the editors of the book was beside my person was Richard Dierenhofer from the forensic side and Peter Fock coming from the imaging side. Later, we could integrate Gil Brockton, that was a radiologist. The older people in the audience maybe know him or remember him. He passed away maybe 4 or 5 years ago. He was very, very famous in skeletal radiology, and he wrote a book 25 years ago, Forensic Radiology. The cover was red, and then we invited him to Switzerland. You see him on the photo in the middle, the elderly gentleman. And then we decided, let's work together. And then we published some years later the Forensic Radiology book based on his book of Forensic Radiology, the red one. And then we merged that with the autopsy approach, and finally it becomes then the second edition of Jill Brockton's Forensic Radiology. And you see here on the left side, this was the first publication of the autopsy approach. So integration, it's the autopsy, a new imaging horizon in forensic pathology, and that was, I think it was 23. And it takes us nearly 2 years until this publication was accepted. So it was really a long time because nobody was waiting for this new kind of approach in forensic science. So, and you see around me, you see here some people of my team, Thomas Ruder, now working again in the Insel Hospital, Gary Hatch working in the US, Peter Breitbeck, and then Mark Weiner, a radiographer, a famous radiographer from UK. And together, we worked together during that time. And then maybe here an announcement, some promotion. We wrote together as the Zurich team all our experience, and this book will be presented, I think, during or after summertime. It's called the Autopsy Update, the next level of forensic imaging. So that's, you see here, it will be published as a hardback in July 2022. to July. So that's the plan. And then the group, I'm going back, this group here, we said, okay, because nobody likes us in the forensic and radiological field, we decided let's create the so-called International Society of Forensic Radiology and Imaging Group. So we started that group. We sent out an email many, many years ago before the RSNA meeting in Chicago, 2011, just when we started during that year at the University of Zurich. We sent out email to everybody we know and said, okay, we decided to create or found the International Society of Forensic Radiology Imaging, like you can mention that like a helping group of the people who were not really accepted in the radiological world and who are not really accepted in the forensic world because they had some new crazy ideas, or they were a little bit thinking out of the box. And so if you have time, go to the website. We started this society in Zurich. The first two congresses were held in Zurich. It was a very, very nice environment, and then it becomes a global development. And so the location on the meeting is always moving from one side, international places, to another side. So the last time we were in Japan, we had one in Melbourne, we had others one across Europe, and yes, maybe in the future, I hope in the near future, we even will be maybe in the Arabic area in Riyadh, Jeddah, or in another city of Saudi Arabia. And so this is the society. And in addition to the society, we have founded the Forensic Imaging Journal, like a dedicated journal bridging the gap between the forensic people and the imaging people together. And this is a publication. We have got some impact factor 2 or 3 years ago. We are trying to PubMed listening, and you see in this publication or in this journal, we are publishing all the newest stuff in the field. So it's really dedicated to forensic imaging, what we are doing, virtual autopsy, and it becomes really an excellent journal. So if you are starting to do working in forensic imaging area and all that, then if you wanted to publish something, I really welcome you to submit your papers to forensic imaging. At the moment, I'm the editor-in-chief, founding editor-in-chief, together with a famous team, radiologists and pathology people pushing the society, the left side, and the forensic imaging journal in the future. The next upcoming congress or meeting will be exactly in a month. It will be in Bulgaria. It's connected to the world famous 3 annual International Association Forensic Science Congress. So all the forensic people globally will be there. It's one of the biggest forensic congress, and for this year we integrated the Forensic Radiology Imaging Society meeting in that congress. So go there on the website, look what we are doing, and it will be an excellent congress there. A lot of people are coming from the forensic field, imaging field. There will be forensic nursing too, and there will even be, because we have, yes, it's the 15th Congress, and we will have even an ease-free party during that time in Sofia, Bulgaria next month. So this was more a little bit what we are doing, and so we had a huge impact to governments, for example. So Japan was the first government or society who or which implemented the idea in some guidelines of the government or workflow. So that was now over 20 years ago. After that, there was a statement of forensic science in the United States, strengthening because they had, and I think they have still some issues or problem how forensic science or medicine is working in the US. And there is really in that book published 2009, there are some recommendation for using virtual autopsy or autopsy in the United States. And so for a long time there was nothing happening, and then there was some sponsoring by the Department of Justice. So that was stopped some years ago, but nowadays the development the last 5 years started in the US. And then in the UK, 2012, Guy Ratti started a similar program for post-mortem. Department of Health pushed the post-mortem imaging group and examination in the UK. You see here, as you have your plan in Saudi Arabia concerning the Vision 2030, other countries integrated this imaging, forensic imaging approach already more than 20 years ago. From the legal side, maybe we can discuss that later. From the legal side, it was never a problem. It's fully accepted as an examination tool in Switzerland. We never had problems to push that or integrate that in the reporting of forensic findings. But we will come to that at the end of the presentation. So, young doctor in our team, Natalia Kmara, she published a paper in the famous Forensic Imaging Journal. She was looking or asking who is already integrated or working with forensic imaging in a daily practice, or who has experience. And you see here, these are really countries working in that. So, for example, Canada, they have in Toronto, they have a CT and a magnetic resonance scanner there. So Michael Ponalen and the doctor Pickup, who attended our autopsy many years ago. We have collaborations with some people in the United States, South Africa, South America, and then we were invited or organized a mini autopsy course some months ago in Cape Town, South Africa. In the Europe, I think Scandinavian area, they are working on forensic imaging. India is starting, Japan is doing great, and as I mentioned before, for sure, Australia. So this is at the moment a little bit where forensic imaging is already integrated. You see in the Arabic area, I think there's still some things to do, but I think this is really the idea of today's basic information for you as a radiologist, what is going on in the field of forensic imaging. So it's published, Forensic Imaging by Kmara. So when you go again to this virtual intelligence, and when you're asking that this ChatGPT or something like that, the answer is really autopsy is expanding globally due to increasing demand for minimally invasive 3D technique for religious and all that, ethical, cultural consideration in all our populations. And then it's really, if you have large scale investigation or handling disasters in war times, or if you have natural disasters, or if you have disasters in a football stadium, or if you have you had in earlier years some disaster or large scale dead people in the Mecca area and all that. For these as a screening tool, the imaging technology is great. And you see here, autopsy is poised to become a cornerstone of forensic medicine. I think the time is over that people say, okay, it makes no sense to integrate imaging in the forensic medicine workflow, because it's really the efficiency, the accuracy, and the acceptability is nowadays globally. It's really great. And what I was seeing in India, because they have really large scale institution, I think they say, okay, that is the future. And what I saw there some weeks or months ago, they are doing great and they are really pushing the development. And so I think the forensic medicine, for sure, it was a very, very traditional field, but I think the technology will be integrated, and I think the younger people, Generation Z and all that, I think they have a huge affinity to more technology, and so more technology will be integrated in forensic, and the future, personally, I think, is based on human beings and all that. I think it's really technology driven, the future in general, and for sure in radiology. I'm always visiting the radiological conference, RSNA, European Congress, and all that. I think there is technology, AI, and all that is really moving forward, and I think that will be integrated very, very soon in forensic medicine too. So, what is autopsy? Like a little summary after 1 hour talk. It's a non-invasive autopsy revolution. It's a non-invasive examination. You can integrate advanced imaging integration, so meaning hardware, surface scanning, photogrammetry, and all that, Gaussian splatting, CT, magnetic resonance scanning, cross-section imaging, and then I think some cultural societies, or based on ethical thinking and all that, they prefer the imaging of a dead body. So personally, I would not like to undergo when I'm dying or after death to do by my an autopsy. So I would really prefer an virtual autopsy or a autopsy instead of a classical traditional autopsy opening the body. So if you are planning, we discussed that last year at the forensic meeting in Riyadh, establishing a autopsy program. For sure, you need infrastructure, so CT scanner and resources. I think without money or resources, you can do nothing. You need for sure imaging equipment, and there's always the discussion whether you should have that at the beginning already in the forensic institution. If you are really a large-scale institution, I think then it's excellent having a scanner in the forensic department. But to start such a project, I think you can start using the machines in a hospital to scan the first bodies, and maybe later then in a forensic department or dedicated environment. Then, beside the hardware, for sure, you need software. That's absolutely clear. And in software, I think the development are huge. We started with a simple software, then you have advanced software, visualization. We are using the Siemens tool, all this nice visualization using the software. And nowadays, as you know that as a radiologist, artificial intelligence, pre-reading of findings in mammographs, or in lung detection of nodules, and or in rheumatology screening of the fingers and all that, or fracture detection. Artificial intelligence is already integrated in radiology, in the emergency department, and in the normally workflows of some programs. And then funding, that without money, it's always a problem. I think some money you need, but at the moment, it's really the training is very important. So if you have money, you have the hardware, you have the software. This will not be a success story. I think you have to bring people together to connect people on a professional or personal level, and then you have to do the training, because the huge problem is really, and I have to be honest, it's still a huge problem even in Switzerland, because you have still the radiologist on one side and the forensic doctors, and it's not already integrated even here in Switzerland as a board certification program and all that. So even in Switzerland, that's a still problem. Normally, it's based on a personal relationship, working great together. And if the relationship between some people is not great anymore, then it becomes not a success story. But training to understand what are the forensic question, what is all about it, to know some basic information as a radiologist, what is going on in forensic, or what are the relevant forensic questions. That's an important topic, and vice versa. The forensic doctor should have some basic knowledge concerning forensic imaging technology, and that's the reason some people are doing, after a radiology education, a fellowship in forensic and all that. So that becomes globally a development, but based on a own commitment of some people. I know in the Arabic world there are some people doing the same, and I saw some people in India doing the same. We have some people in Europe doing the same. I think at the moment it's not, to be honest, established a board certification program who gives you the training and all that. So again, summary: money, okay, you need it; hardware, software, you need that. But the most important step is at the moment training programs, and I think that's again the reason I'm giving you so a basic lecture. What is going on, or give you the impression or the smell, what is forensic and what is forensic imaging. So this is maybe an important slide, and maybe this is so important because that's the reason we as a group, as a team, becomes a little bit famous in the world. And so our approach was really that we integrated different technologies. So this was like a scientific umbrella, or the tools under the label of autopsy. So we used as a surface documentation, we were using 30 years, 25 years ago, the surface documentation, 3D scanning based on photogrammetry. So what you see on the top, this was for the surface documentation, that you have the information of the surface to document wounds, pattern injury, and all that. And then we merge that, the surface information in 3D with the inside information, meaning CT, magnetic resonance imaging, to visualize using this technique. CT, you know, it's very quick. After some minutes, you have the full information. You see the gross information of the organs. It's perfect for bone. And if you have more questions concerning, for example, the brain, the heart, then magnetic resonance is excellent. Or if you have soft tissue injury after a traffic accident or something like that, then it's an excellent tool. And because we were a little bit, yes, cutting edge or out of the box, we even said, okay, let's try to do postmortem angiography. It sounds very strange or a little bit crazy, but it works. And then we started to do even biopsy, postmortem biopsy. And this was really the umbrella, the surface documentation, the inside documentation using postmortem angiography to visualize in a better way the heart and the vessel system, taking out biopsies for histological analysis or taking out some specimen for toxicological analysis. So this, what you see here with these sketches or with this photo, that was or were the different tools of the Autopsy approach. So, and we tried to integrate all these things in one machine. So that was the idea. You see that here. So going away from the classical autopsy approach with this old white people, old men around here, and then going in a digital world, as you can see here, the person lying on the CT or on the table. We had then the idea, okay, maybe CT, so this picture or these sketches, we built that. I think we were invited to the National Institute of Cancer in Washington, D.C. It was 2003 or something like that. And then we presented that how will be the examination of dead bodies in the future. So we had the idea CT and magnetic resonance will be merged in one machine. That's the reason we have only one machine here. Then we have a biopsy tool on the top. We have the red thing is the surface scanner. Beside that, we had a high resolution CT or magnetic resonance scanner. So magnetic resonance 9.4 Tesla. When I was in the US at the AFP, we did specimen examination, so coronary arteries or electric wounds at 9.4 Tesla scanning. That was excellent and strange, but very interesting. And then you see you have all the information here on the screen. So that was the idea, the vision 2003. So now over 20 years ago, that was the idea, like a vision, and we say, okay, we as a Autopsy team, that will be the future. And so we had this vision, and then the realization you will see later. Nowadays, I see, or I would say, beside all this technology, I presented you, I think the basic tool is really the 3D CT scanning, so multi-slice CT scanning, then maybe magnetic resonance technology for the detection of a soft tissue. We are using, that's a research topic, magnetic resonance spectroscopy to detect metabolic changes and all that based on magnetic resonance spectroscopy. That's a very, very fancy, very, very academic research topic. And then we are developing together, especially with Dominic Gajot, the 3D surface scanning technology. So Dominic Gajot is a radiographer, a technician, but with a very, very strong academic development. And so at the moment we have some new idea concerning especially the 3D surface scanning to bring that to the people in an easy and affordable way. And so I'm going back here. So that was the idea. I remember the picture, and that was finally we had the concept. We had such a vertobot machine already at the University of Bern, and now we have that vertobot in Zurich. Ahmed visited me some years ago, and other people visited me. So it's not fake. It's not a artificial intelligence picture. It's reality. You see here you have a CT scanner. It's a Somatome Siemens definition flash. The future, we will see based on whether university is investing money. The next step would nice to have a photo counting scanner because you have a better resolution, visualization, and the photo counting technology. I think it's great for daily use, maybe in the future, but from the academic standpoint, it's excellent. And then you see above the dead body. It's not a real dead body, it's a puppe or mannequin. You see the scanning machine, the 3D scanner with the light. You see the photogrammetry on the left, and then you see the biopsy machine. So So it's fully automated. We developed that when we had this situation, bioterrorism. You remember September 11 and then the anthrax and all that. So it was the idea having the whole forensic examination tool in a room separated from the rest. So like closed box autopsy, digital autopsy, virtual autopsy machine called Vertobot. So integrating all the tools I mentioned you before, going back. So these tools here integrated as an idea here, 2003 in the machine. We started with that machine 15 years ago. So that was I always call that is the highest level, so Ferrari, Lamborghini level of examination of dead bodies. And so here maybe some impressions, as you can see here. On the left side, we are scanning the surface of the body. So that could be a dead body in the autopsy environment. And we have other scanners with them, with which you can scan living people, so sexual assault cases, domestic violence, and all that. But the idea is having a really scan a body, and then you have like a digital twin. You have the exact digital twin of the color, of the size of the wound, and the full information. On the left side, I think you are aware of that. You see the skull, where it's a gunshot to the skull, to the head here, and then on the right side, at the bottom, you see a post-mortem angiography, so after death, post-mortem angiography, and you see on the left arm, shoulder area, you see the vessel. It's absolutely perfect, like you are doing an angiogram in a living person, and then on the right side of the person, you see the fractured humerus, and then around a huge extravasat. So the post-mortem contrast media went out, and then you had the bleeding in the soft tissue, and that's an area which is not easy to access by a classical autopsy approach. And so you see for the people in police or the people prosecution or in the court system, they are normally not used to medical findings, and often they are not happy to look at bloody pictures of dead people. And so the visualization here is much more with more emotion, or with without emotional stress to this layman in the medical field. And the visualization as 3D reconstruction is often much better than showing the people terrible bloody pictures of autopsy or something like that. And you see here cinematic rendering from Siemens company, or there are other companies. You see here the visualization of the muscle system is great, and even here in the neck area you can see, are there fractures on the vertebrae, or it's a strangulation case, or you see fracture on the hyoid bones and all that. And so the visualization based on the cross-section imaging, that's really, really great. And we integrate that already in the reporting of our forensic findings. I come to that later. And then what we are doing, and that's we are not only normally people think, okay, forensic doctors, they are only dealing with dead people, but that's different in Switzerland. We have maybe half of our cases are living people. So we want to integrate all this imaging technology, the surface scanning by photogrammetry. So that's a photogrammetry scanner we bought 10 years ago. We are developing now new technology, easier and faster technology, and in addition to the surface documentation of the skin, domestic violence, rape, and all that, or fighting personalized violence, we are scanning strangulation victims using clinical magnetic resonance scanner, and we scan in the hospital. That's a project together with the hospital, the neck and the head area to detect the effects of strangulation, and we are hoping maybe see in the future using some technologies of examination of the brain that we hope to see maybe in the future some kinds of hypoxia in the brain or so. So that's an ongoing research project, but I wanted to show you that you see, okay, forensic medicine is not only dealing with dead people. So we call us as forensic medicine. We are not forensic pathology. That meaning, okay, we have around 1,000 cases of living people in a year in Zurich. And then I told you we have all the data 3D. We do the reconstruction as after the cinema or the theater. We wanted to do 3D reconstruction, and we are using these 3D glasses or these headsets going in the virtual or better augmented reality. We published in the field that you can go in the data. Maybe you know similar project even with the Apple Pro headset or something like that. That's sometimes I saw that again at RSNA Chicago last year, integrating or visualization of radiological findings, and we are using that to visualize the forensic findings using this manner. And so, as I told you, it's always it's a reconstruction of a happening or an event. So that was a domestic violence. So there was a fight between the man in the middle of the picture, and he was shot by the wife. They both worked in the security environment, and then finally they had a fight or a verbal dispute beginning, and then after the fight, finally the woman shot the guy, and we scanned all the bodies, the dead body of the man, the living body of the person, and the police scanned the whole environment. And based on the documentation of the environment, the apartment, and the entrance of the bullets in the wall and all that, and the bullets passing the body of the man, and so we could together with the police do the reconstruction. So we create then the so-called 3D Centrum Zurich, where forensic works together with the police. So that's a little bit that you see what I mentioned at the beginning, that you see the reconstruction is the key issue or the key message for the court. What happens, or before the curtains falls, what was the story of the movie or the theater. So that I wanted to show you that you see, okay, that's the story, that's the goal we want to have, or that we can answer here the forensic question: what happens in the apartment, how many gunshots were fired, where they hit the person, where they hit the bullet after passing the person, where the bullet hits the wall, and all that. And so these are, as I mentioned before, the W questions, and again based on imaging. So the police normally scans in 3D the whole apartment with all the objects there are in the apartment. We are scanning the biological material, meaning the dead body, the living body, and at the end we bring together all the data for a 3D virtual reconstruction, or for virtual animation based, and that's very important, on the real 3D data. Okay, and here another case that was one of the first cases we had as a team in Zurich. It was a Ferrari The man was a driver, and on the seat, on the other seat, there were sitting two ladies, and finally one of the ladies died because he crashed a little wall here, and based on the damage in the front of the car, the police could calculate the velocity of the car in this. It was a suburban area of Zurich, and then calculating of the damage or the energy transfer to the car, they could calculate the velocity, and then we scanned the environment there. We scanned the inside of the Ferrari, so that there was, I think in 2011 or 2012, you see, the scan was not very perfect, but nowadays it's really it's not a great problem anymore. If you have a iPhone or another smartphone having LiDAR sensor in it, you can do that even using your iPhone. So the technique development was so fast and exciting during the last year. And so here another reconstruction. So a person was hit by a car. You see the damage at the car, and so this is the basic or the real 3D information based on the real 3D data, surface scanning, CT scanning. Then you can do or visualize the interaction, what happens in this pedestrian accident, and so on. So again, what is important is really we are not only, or our goal is not to do imaging, CT scanning to replace the autopsy. That's not our main or key topic. It's having the data in 3D for further 3D artificial intelligence or the virtual reality visualization in the courtroom. That's really the topic. It's really, as I mentioned before, answering the forensic question based on the scanning. And so what is important, other visualization, this in 3D for justice, it's a virtual reality, but we have the real 3D data. You have all the data in the archive. You can always go back and double check that. And I think it's globally, it has a huge acceptance during the last 15 years in mass disaster and complex forensic investigation. I think it really becomes an important part of forensic science in general, even 3D scanning of accident scenes, on crime scenes and all that. If you have a murder case in Switzerland, we have not a lot of them, nearly 50 in a year. So the first step by the police is scan the environment. When the body is still there, then we have the 3D information, then the body goes to the institute, we scan the dead body, and if other persons are involved, we scan the people, the living people, using the other clinical surface scanner. So again, it's a teamwork. I mentioned that before. It's bridging forensic pathology and radiology, bring people together, bring the knowledge together, and be open-minded, teach each other what is important in radiology, in imaging, what is important in forensic, what are the problems in the forensic field, in the imaging field, and it's really working together to answer the forensic questions. Nowadays, I think one person cannot do everything. I think when you are used to read some images, then you can find maybe interpretation as a forensic doctor, but I think really you have a deep understanding, and personally, I really think for high-profile cases, you will be always having or need the knowledge of a real radiologist, because you are in the field, you have the experience, and you are always linked to the development in imaging technology, in radiology, based on the software and on the hardware. So I think the huge revolution in forensic imaging will be the artificial intelligence and all that. I think in the upcoming years, I think giving such a presentation in 2 or 3 years, it would be totally different. And then I think artificial intelligence will support the forensic doctor and the radiologist in a way maybe we are not expecting today. But I think there will be an impact, and I personally I think it will be a huge impact in the workflow and in the reading of images and putting together the reports. So it's really that's maybe important slide too. So teaching to read the images as a forensic pathologist or a forensic doctor, and then for you coming from the radiological field, it's for you it's absolutely relevant. What are the relevant forensic questions, and what maybe are some artifacts you are not expecting? For example, if a person dies and she lies on the back, then you have the inner livorus. They go, so the blood goes in the way of the gravity, and then you have in the back end or back, if the person is lying flat on the floor on the bed, you have in the back of the lungs, you have the so-called inner livorus. And if you are not used as a radiologist to that finding, you always say, okay, this is a pneumonia. So it's really, I'm in the field now for over 20 years. When we have new residents, we have some exchange programs. Some years very extensive, now it's a little bit lower. So always the young radiologists, oh, all the people have basal pneumonia, but these are the inner livorus, and that's a really normal finding post-mortem. So that's really important. So what we are offering, that's a little bit of promotion. We are offering the Autopsy course. It's every year. We were used to do that in March. The dates for next year's are not absolutely fixed yet. Maybe it will be in April. It's the full course is a 10 days course. There are some basic information like this presentation I give you at the moment, and then so some advanced information, and then we have some practical examinations. So we are doing post-mortem angiography, we are doing a 3D scanning and all that. We will modify a little bit the course, but what is important, or what is a really possibility or an option or an advantage, that we have our own 50 cases. You can do the training with the 50 forensic cases, and then you have write together a case book with these 50 cases. And at the end, that's important, you get a diploma from the University of Zurich. And this is a so-called Diploma of Certified of Advanced Studies. And this is nowadays for a 10-day course. It's the best diploma or the quickest diploma you can get. There are maybe some other programs worldwide. Some of them are often sponsored by companies who want to sell some machines to forensic departments, and there are some university master programs, but some of they died or are not going on. And so this course is really dedicated for forensic imaging. And we had that course, we had over 20 people from all over the world. It was really great, and it's really, we start together the course, and then we become family, we have social events, but it's really, it's a course that the people come to Zurich, we talk together for 10 days. It's a very interactive, and we become really family, and at the end most of the people ended up to become a member of the International Society of Forensic Imaging and Radiology, and then visiting together our congresses, and hopefully publishing papers in the forensic imaging journal. So I think this is like a summary a little bit. It's about, I mentioned that before, it's like a puzzle. You have some pieces on the floor after the certain falls, the theater or the playing is over, and then you have to do the reconstruction. And I think the reconstruction, this is really a main topic, or that you have to solve for what happens here, and then you put together these puzzle pieces, and then you can say, okay, that happens here. And so imaging of the body, living or dead, and the environment becomes a very, very important integrative step or puzzle or technique in this forensic process. Again, like as a summary from cutting, classical autopsy, to scanning, autopsy, the traditional limitations of autopsy. It's invasive. You are destroying the 3D architecture. It's not very costly, or you have to. It takes maybe 2 or 3 hours. You have a lot of people involved, and often the families or relatives reject that because of cultural or religious reasons. I learned that in India, that's a huge problem even there. And then what is great, you have digital 3D documentation of the findings of the surface and the inside findings, and you can store that forever. And even the body is burned or goes in a burial, you have the data, and you can always go back to the data, or you can even send out the data for a second opinion or something like that. Okay, here a picture. Then what is saving time? Or that's a short overview. You see, we in Zurich, when I started in Zurich, we have 500 classical autopsy cases. And then we decided, let's introduce the so-called CT scanning, like a triage tool. And so the examination numbers of autopsy went down. Nowadays, we have around 300 classical autopsies. But no, we have 400 traditional autopsy. Before we had 500, so we dropped down to 400 traditional autopsy. So we lose 100 classical autopsies to triage CT. But our customer, prosecution or police, said or get the impression, okay, this triage CT approach is great, and that's the reason they send us more dead bodies, because they know, okay, they will give us, after the CT scan, taking some minutes, interpretation, maybe an hour or something like that, they give us a feedback what is inside the body, and maybe we do not have to do an autopsy anymore. So, and this is totally consistent with the Saudi approach, the slide I presented you at the beginning. And so the CT triage from the money side, Switzerland and Saudi Arabia, people outside of our country saying, okay, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, these are the rich people, but I think you have to be efficient and all that. So money plays a role in Saudi Arabia and in Switzerland too. So based on the triage tool using or workflow, we had a cost reduction around 3 times compared to a classical autopsy. So the triage scanning is much more easier and quicker than the classical autopsy, who is destroying the 3D geometry, what is not useful if you wanted to do a 3D reconstruction. And from the society, the relatives, the approach of autopsy is to 100% accepted. And I told you before, if I had to go, or I could decide, but I will be then death, to do a autopsy or an autopsy, a classical, I would go for sure for autopsy. And so when death speaks, autopsy listens. That's a nice headline. And so here may be some cases. We can go to the cases very quick. So this is body packing, as radiologists or radiographers are coming from the from the imaging field, you recognize that immediately. Here you see that's a mountain climber. You see 3D reconstruction. You press the button, you have the full information of the surface. You can take away the skin and the soft tissue. Then you see the fracture at the left leg. And then for identification purposes, if you have the information ante-mortem from the dentist, then you can calculate a virtual panortogram out of the CT data scan, and then you can compare that for identification reasons. And it's very quick to do that. It's even quicker than a DNA identification, because DNA is a little bit expensive, and it takes 3 hours. And having the pre-examination, the radiographs coming from a hospital or something like that, you can do the comparison and say, okay, it fits, it's that person. And I think in the DVI, disaster victim identification process, this becomes the gold standard. Yeah. And so here, dental profiling, you know that you can do the calculation. We published that maybe 20 years ago. It was a great idea, but nowadays, if we have a case, we are always doing that. We have a plane crash 5 years ago or something like that, and then we used exactly this dental CT for dental profiling. Finally, you know, you have to do a DNA or a fingerprinting if possible, but this identification dental profiling is a great tool. Yeah. And then this is a case blunt force to the frontal part of the head. You see that 3D reconstruction, and then the bone reconstruction. This is another injury, sharp injury. You see some defects with the red arrows on the skin. Then you see the defect on the underlying bone, and then you even see the tiny, tiny, tiny tip of the knife found in the mandibular area. So it's very, very thin, so 1 to 2 millimeters. And using the technology, the imaging technology, you can detect it in an easy way. To find that in a classical autopsy approach, I think it's very difficult. Normally, you would not have the idea to search for the tip of the knife. But so this was a finding based on the imaging. And then we mentioned that tuberculosis or something like that in the lung, then you are prepared what you are expecting doing the autopsy. So when we started the project, it was always a correlation between pathology and radiological finding. You know that as a radiologist, maybe from the radiographics journal at the beginning, it was always pathology, radiology, correlation, and even the courses they are still organizing from the AFP in Washington or nowadays in Bethesda are based on this correlation, pathology finding and imaging finding on correlation. So here some impressions that you see. We have a 3 Tesla magnetic resonance scanner at the institution, and that's great. We are doing whole body magnetic resonance. It's sometimes we use that for the daily questions, forensic questions, especially for brain or heart or soft tissue. But we are doing here, as I mentioned before, magnetic resonance spectroscopy to study post-mortem the metabolism of the person or the body. And then heart, you see here ischemic myocardial finding. You see on the right side, you see the finding in an autopsy, and on the left side, you see the magnetic resonance. And you can really see, you can see not everything in the dead body, as you know from the radiological side. Sometimes you have, as a radiologist, feedback from the surgeon telling you, okay, you were correct, or we find some additional finding. And you have the pictures like this magnetic resonance scanning, and then we can correlate that always with the finding of the autopsy. And this was really our first paper, the Autopsy basic paper, 2003, was really based on this experience. Yeah. Here, just as a picture, post-mortem angiography, you see the arterial and venous first. We are using a specialized machine here like that, but we had published another publication using an aquarium pump with nearly similar results, and we are doing that, or we did that during the Autopsy course all the time or all the years to demonstrate that you can use an expensive machine or a modified aquarium pump. Yeah. And so here visualization, you know that post-mortem angiography visualization of the findings, the vessel system, and then you see here where you have the calcification and where the contrast media goes and where is no connection to the vessel or contrast media showing, okay, there is a problem from the flow in the coronary artery system. And then you remember that's a case I already showed you. So Autopsy, it's really, you have the data, you store the data like a fossil-like data, and you can go back always to the data. It's objective, it's permanent in true, and you have abstraction for the visualization of the data. And so here maybe an overview. I'm coming to the end, and then we will have some time for some questions. I think the established partnership, and I think this is the topic of today's meeting, that you make the bridge to the forensic medical doctor side, and then you work together, you maybe share resources before they will have maybe in the future dedicated equipment. But even then, I think the forensic people, forensic medical doctors use or need or will have some impact even in the future from your side if there is a high profile case or they have a dedicated radiological question, because the big issue or the big findings, I think, that broken arm or broken leg, I think that's easy to see. But if there are some specific question concerning heart, brain, and interpretation, I think then forensic likes to collaborate with you and hear your expert opinion. So training, that's an important step. What we are doing is a little bit of basic training. Then we have the Autopsy course, and we are looking for a mini course maybe in the near future in Saudi Arabia. Then data analysis, that's a topic. I think here will be artificial intelligence integrated very soon. And at the end, in forensic, we are used to collaborate with interdisciplinary teams. And I know that from my 2 years in radiology, and knowing that from the work of my wife working in radiology in a clinical setup, it's always a multidisciplinary teamwork together. So what is maybe, and I'm really coming to the end, what is important in this journal Forensic Imaging, you see that published 2002, you will find that if you Google that, so we put together, so you see the names of some of the key figures in the forensic field coming from radiology and pathology, and there are some working groups, and there's a working group concerning what's all about and that's really for 20 years, that's a open question, still open questions, hot topic. It's about competence and training requirements for reporting and interpretation of forensic postmortem imaging. And going to the paper, you see there are two different levels. The level 1 is the so-called reader. The reader is only reading the cases. You see here at the bottom, usually a forensic pathologist. So he's reading that. He gives some information, blah, blah, blah. And so there's the idea, the level 1, the reader, is compared. I go to the next slide, the level uh, 2 level und the
If I may,
level.
Prof. Tali, we have a lot of questions.
Okay, yes, I go through that. So only to
Uh,
give
yeah,
you
I'll just give you
impression.
last 2 minutes, doctor, so if you can.
Yeah, I have maybe 1 minute or so. I
Sure.
think this level you can read the paper, then you have all the information. And what is important, I'm coming to the end. Maybe you have 100 questions. I have time until the evening. So the classical report is really you have a forensic report covering all the information, and you have the autopsy protocol. So that's the basic reporting to the court system, the police or prosecution. So autopsy protocol, reporting the finding, and then the conclusion, that's the forensic report. And when we started the project, and you as a radiologist, you know that, you have normally a written report because we are in the field on a non-medical expert. We are producing some pictorial overview of the mine findings, as you can see here. The development, that's important. You have on the one side the classical forensic doctor's reporting and the written report from a radiologist in forensic, having the written report and this pictorial overview. And at the end, that's important. The people, the customer is only interested in the final forensic report, normally written by the forensic pathologist, and then in addition to the pictorial overview, showing him in a comic style view what are the findings. So this is nowadays the result where or in which the customer is interested. So that I already mentioned, looking forward maybe mini autopsy course in Saudi Arabia. And so that's the final slide. And then I'm open to this question you are asking me. Okay, thank you very much to be with me for nearly 2 hours. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Michael, for this fruitful webinar. It's very exciting. It got a lot of knowledge. We will start with the Q&A questions. I believe this is Dr. Muhammad Salah. He's asking that we try to manage a lot of cases without any availability of medical history in middle age. All post-mortem CT on chest doctors, so I believe he's a forensic doctor, wrote bilateral diffuse ground glass opacities with increased density. He's saying that in many cases, could it support in anything or even pneumonia regarding this common a note that they write when they see bilateral diffuse ground glass opacities. I mean, in a normal CT that comes in a forensic case, I think this is what Dr. Muhammad is referring to. So that's the first question.
So maybe I do not understand the question correctly. So can you repeat that? So it's based on CT scanning, or
yeah, it's a CT scan that comes to the forensic physician.
yeah.
He's saying that there's a particular CT comment that comes in a CT to the chest. It's a little bit specific question, but it says that their comment is bilateral diffuse ground glass opacities with increased density. I mean, he's saying it's a little bit generalized, not so specific. So,
the what is a learning we had. So you always need some information where the body is coming from, what is maybe the history of the body, and then the interpretation of lung findings. That's not
the
always
thing is, doctor,
easy.
if I can combine two questions, this is a normal postmortem finding.
Yeah.
We have a similar question that says the same thing, which is, I read it over here. Let me just go back to it.
But it's not in a livorus finding or in the back of the lungs. It's different, or. But I think this is the topic. If you get that as a written report, I think then it's important going back to show really in the picture or what you see there. And finally, the interpretation depends on the case or what is the forensic question. Maybe this finding is irrelevant, but maybe this is a very important finding, whether it's maybe a droning case or something like that, or you have it's a malpractice case if the
Okay.
person is in a hospital or something like that.
I
But I
got your
think the
point,
best
doctor.
would be to discuss that if the person is a forensic doctor with the radiologist and sitting together online or in person, say, okay, what is your meaning or how is the interpretation of that? But lung interpretation, as you know, as a clinical radiologist, is not always easy.
I got you, doctor. Thank you. And there's another question saying that, Dr. Saleh, can the virtopsy be done remotely? And does it require additional training for radiological technicians?
That means, say that again.
Can the virtopsy be done remotely?
Remotely means what exactly, or
He's not clarifying what's remotely, but I
uh,
believe he's not at the place of the radiologist.
at-
So a
yeah,
technician,
absolutely, absolutely. I think nowadays it's like teleradiology or something like that. At the beginning, we did that exactly this way. So we started in the hospital, then we had on-site radiological interpretation. Later, we had the CT scanner and the magnetic resonance scanner in our forensic institution. And if we have a special question, we send the pictures there. And so it's possible. For example, I have an MBA. We had then the idea or a concept that you have like a scanning hotspot somewhere with radiographers scanning the bodies or even autopsy technicians scanning the body, and the interpretation is done by teleradiology or something like that, far away from the scanning location. So that's possible.
thank you, doctor. There are many questions regarding what are the requirements for a forensic medicine center to hire and recruit a radiologist. Is it a diploma sufficient, or it has to be a training, a fellowship?
So that's an interesting question. The question is not solved. I think we had exchange program with young doctors. We had an exchange program with older doctors. So uh, if we have in Zurich a high profile case, I need a signature of a board certified radiologist for sure. But this radiologist should have some experience in forensic. Nowadays, the diploma, the CS I mentioned you before at the University of Zurich, that's really at the moment the only diploma globally who is covering that. So you have companies offering courses and all that. And that was the reason from Melbourne, all the senior doctors are sent to Zurich to get the diploma. So they have a huge experience as a forensic pathologists or doctors, but they are sent before they have the level of a senior doctor to Zurich. And even for the radiologist, or we had the group we had in March, there were 20, more than 20 people, half of them pathologists, the rest radiologists. And for the radiologist, the course to read the images, to do the 50 cases, that was easy. But they wanted to have the diploma. So we had some years ago a lady from Singapore, we had ladies from the US. They want to have the diploma and to get the knowledge what I have to expect in radiology based on the 50 cases we have at the institute as a case book.
Glad to hear that, doctor.
But the question is not answered now. I think you had to define, and you could do that maybe in Saudi Arabia, what are these levels, as I mentioned before, or what is level 1 or level 2. You can maybe create in Saudi Arabia by a decree or by a law, okay, you have maybe level A, B, C, or maybe in the future we can establish a training program. But personally, I think it should be integrated in the the teaching or the board certification or the way to the board certification, there should be an option that it could be integrated. But nowadays, globally, there's no solution. Not even in Switzerland, to be honest.
Thank you, doctor. Another question says that how can virtopsy addresses the need for histology and toxicology without resorting to invasive methods? Will virtopsy ever be an accurate as a traditional autopsy for diagnosing sudden natural death, especially cardiovascular events, for example? Well, he's asking 5 questions over here, but I'm going to take
Okay, no,
yeah.
no, excellent. But these are the very serious questions, or he hit the goal. Yeah. So for toxicology, I think nowadays you still need some blood or urine for further examination. We are doing that. We call that quick toxicology. Maybe I can show you this approach in a workshop or if you have a course in Saudi Arabia. I think you need blood and urine for toxicology analysis. We are doing magnetic resonance spectroscopy. There you can detect alcohol, but alcohol is not a real problem in your environment. For histology, I think you need nowadays the microscope, so you have to take out samples. For cardiac death, I think you see a lot using magnetic resonance scanning covering the heart. But magnetic resonance scanning, as radiologists, that's not so easy. You have to have the scanner, you have to have the experience, you have to the knowledge of the findings. But personally, I think the documentation or the use of CT in forensic medicine should be integrated globally. It will be the first step. The second step is a proper 3D documentation of the body surface. And at the end, to be honest, I think if you have a specific question concerning the heart, if it's maybe a malpractice case or you have an intervention by a doctor in a hospital, I think nowadays you can not totally answer all the questions in the cardiac natural death, but to be honest, often you cannot see the natural death in the heart because often you have no findings in the autopsy, and finally you said the person died because of a cardiac failure without seeing anything in the autopsy, to be honest. Yeah. So I answered maybe 3 or 4 questions.
Yes, you did, doctor. Thank you. Now there is a question that says, doctor, how is virtopsy working with petrified bodies and
Yeah, I understand. So I like that question because at the beginning I was thinking when you go to my early publication list, there is Virtopsy, the first gunshot victim, Virtopsy, the first report of burned body, Virtopsy, the first scanning of decomposed body. For decomposed body, it's perfect, the CT scanning. It's excellent. And the next question, okay, CT, I understand. But for magnetic resonance scanning of decomposed body, it's perfect because it's a non-invasive, non-messy approach and it works. Post-mortem magnetic resonance, I like it. So you could, for example, detect in a decomposed body in the brain without opening the skull, bleeding in the brain area. If you are doing an autopsy, it's a mess. It's like a pudding coming out of decomposed brain, and you cannot localize the bleeding in the brain. But doing CT or even magnetic resonance, it's perfect. It sounds absolutely crazy, I understand, but postmortem CT or even better, magnetic resonance, it's perfect in decomposed bodies.
Wonderful, doctor. There are questions from both sides. They're saying that can it be a cross-sectional fellowship program between forensics and radiology?
Yes, we did that, or I was always trying to do that. We still doing that. So I think in the future, I'm now speaking for the forensic pathologist. I sent my good people for a fellowship 1 year to the radiological department. And these people, I think, because I'm not the youngest guy anymore, these people will be the
You're
future.
always young, doctor. You are always young.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. But I think the radiology, we had a lot 10 years ago, some said before the Corona pandemic situation, we had always some radiologists doing some fellowship in our team and the impact, so they did a dedicated studies, heart or something like that. And so I'm a promoter of this interdisciplinary work together and doing the fellowship. So I have a lady. She get an academic position or a promotion next week. She was spending 1 year in radiology. She did an exchange program in Saudi Arabia. She did some study in med law and all that. I think for the future on both sides, pathology and from the radiologist, if you are interested in forensic, you should or have to do an exchange program. That's really great. And I just met during that course a young lady coming from the Arabic area, doing now a fellowship in Tokyo. And she's really dedicated and she told me she will be in Sofia. I met a guy in India who is doing, as a forensic pathologist, doing a fellowship now in radiology. The lady from the Arabic area, she's a radiologist and doing now a forensic. And that's great. I think collaborate and fellowships and exchange program, that's important. I think you should, and I know Dr. Ahmed, and during the last meeting, I was talking with the president of the Radiological Society in Saudi Arabia. I think you have the power and you have the out of the box thinking that you can and will. I'm really cross my fingers establish such a exchange program or exchange fellowships. That's important.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor. There are a lot of questions that is specific technical questions, let's say for pumps
Okay.
and how it do. But there is a request that says we really need Prof. Tali to give us another webinar to promise us for another webinar, which is specific on how to read post-mortem imaging in virtuopsy as an introduction, even maybe. Because if
I
I
think
went to those questions, I'm not going to
yeah,
end because there are questions here regarding the pumps, questions here regarding what we should consider as vulnerable and what is the IV contrast, and all of these questions are a little bit specific in both specialties. So
yeah.
the mic is yours, doctor. If you
Yeah.
are,
So I'm going back or forward. So I show that. So all the questions. So the Virtuopsy course we are offering in Zurich. This is a 10-day course, and then it's like a family camp or the people coming to the course. We are be together all the day or all the day, and then we are answering all the questions, also basic reading of findings, all that we have these courses, and we are really planning. We did that before, we call it mini vertopsy course in Saudi Arabia. We are in discussion to that at the moment. The plan is to have that in the near future. At the moment, people are already integrated in working plans, family holidays, and all that. I think this would be the next step, or that how to read it. But that should be more or less an interactive workshop. And then I need some team members. I know the presentations and all that, but then I think I would prefer having a guy or a person who is a radiologist. So we are working on that topic. And I hope it will happen. So I'm not sure whether it will happens in the upcoming 2 or 3 weeks, but I think this is the next step, or that we have some basic information so that you see the pitfalls and what is possible, and what are really the do's and the do nots.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Tali. I mean, it's an honor actually to hosting you in this wonderful webinar. There's a lot of questions over here, which is technical, and as Prof. Tali said that in the upcoming, in this course, performed course, which is a 10-day course, that it will cover all of your technical questions. As we come to the end of today's webinar, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our distinguished guest, Professor Michael Tari, for sharing his valuable insights and expertise with us. It has truly been an enlightening and engaging session. I would also like to express my appreciation to the Saudi Society of Forensic Medicine and the Radiological Society of Saudi Arabia for their continued support in making this webinar possible, and for their dedication to advancing knowledge and collaboration in the medical field. To our audience, thank you for your active participation. I'm sorry that we didn't answer all of your questions. It's a lot of questions, very good questions. But I hopefully that your engagement is what makes us actually these sessions meaningful and impactful. We hope you find today's discussion informative and beneficial to your practice. We look forward to welcoming you again in the future sessions with Prof. Tali, inshallah. Thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful day. The mic is yours, Prof. Tali, for any final words to the whole radiological and forensic medicine teams. And then we will end the session, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. I know that. So thank you very much for attending. I saw we were over 300 people. That's impressive. And thank you very much for inviting me. I'm always happy collaborate with you. You know, Dr. Ahmed, and we become friends. And I hope to see you in the very, very near future, and maybe organizing a mini autopsy course with some other team members or other international people. And really, I wanted to push the idea globally. I think it's a great idea from tradition to the future. And for me, the greatest thing would be that you start in Saudi Arabia working together as two different disciplines, coming together and being or becoming friends from one to the other side. I think that's my passion, or that's my intention, that this innovation that we created some years ago, that it will come to all over the world. And I think you are doing well with all your organization and the push with the Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia. And then cross my fingers that everything will happen great and good. And then I wish you a happy sunny day, or happy sunny day today, and then for you tomorrow, happy weekend. Tomorrow we have a holiday here in Switzerland too, and so we can go together in the weekend. And thank you very much for listening, and we keep in touch and hope to see you virtual or in person in the near future. So thank you very much, and inshallah, all the best.
Thank you very much. شكرا لكم جميعا, and see you inshallah in the next lecture and the next activity through this associations inshallah بإذن الله تعالى. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you, Prof. Tali.
Okay, thank you. Bye
شكرا
bye.
جزيلا. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.